Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress and bringing birth and evolution. A hearty good morning to Mr. Thomas Tekatala, our principal, Reverend Father Sunil Fernandez, SJ, our primary administrator, Reverend Father Vishal D'Souza, Vice Principal, Mr. Brian McIntosh. Dear parents and students, I welcome you all to this webinar. I, Stephen Kienebu, will be your host for the day. Prayer is something that we receive, and it is also the gift from God. It is the combination of efforts and the work of God within us. I request Ms. Diana Jennifer to lead us in prayer.
Let's place ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear God, we thank you for this day and the opportunity to conduct this soft launch webinar. We are ever grateful to you for your tender mercies and grace, which has enabled us to set up the Loyola Technology Center. We thank you for all the sponsors who have contributed towards making this project a success. May we ask you for your blessings and divine providence that the activities for this undertaking be successful and effective. May we also retain the invaluable knowledge and the learning experience that we derive from this webinar. We pray that you will continue to guide us throughout in all that we do. We make this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, ma'am. We are fortunate indeed to have amidst us an eminent speaker, a great orator, a visionary, and a dreamer. I request Ms. Asha Sundararajan to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Thomas Tekatali.
Hi, welcome students, parents, and teachers to the webinar on the LTC STEM Labs, which is co-founded by the Learn for Life Foundation and the Joy Thomas Foundations. The vision of the LTC is to provide a dynamic and nurturing environment that encourages curiosity and creativity and raises students' achievement in academics and beyond. A little brief background about the LTC. Mr. Thomas Tekatala, class of 77, has been working with St. Joseph's to establish a center for STEM education through the Learn for Life Foundation. The Learn for Life Foundation provides STEM support and works with Jesuit programs across rural and urban Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Early in 2021, Mr. Tekatala was joined by the Joy Thomas Foundation. Mr. Tekatala and Dr. Joy Thomas, who was also in class of 77, were friends. Dr. Joy Thomas had lived his life as an exemplary representative of the values of the St. Joseph's Jesuit vision. His friends and colleagues got together to honor his legacy by founding the Joy Thomas Foundation. I would like to take a minute at this time to thank Father Sunil, Father Vishal, Father Joy, and Mr. Brian McIntosh, and the many unsung heroes who have already dedicated hours to this program and continue to do so. I am Asha Sundararajan, the founding director of the LTC STEM Labs. I studied at the Auxilium Convent School in Mumbai and have my master's degree in education from Teachers College, Columbia University. Thereafter, I taught math in both private and public schools in New York. When my family moved to Mumbai in 2005, I founded India's first STEM center in Mumbai, the Children's Technology Workshop, which today continues to flourish as the Robo Fun Labs. I've conducted many professional development workshops at Sanskriti School and IIT, and I've been a consultant to schools. My husband and Dr. Joy were at IIT together, hence my dedication to establishing the STEM labs at St. Joseph's. In our first year, And Mr. Takatela, our guest, will continue to expand on our planned programs. In our first year, we will be focusing on 3 important founding programs. The Math IXL program, which is an independent learning program with support for math questions at the lab offered by Mr. Stephen, who will be available after school and on Saturdays, not only to help you understand questions that you don't understand, but also build on your knowledge. Our STEM clubs, as you can see in the picture to your left, are already up and running, arousing curiosity of children. The guest series workshop, the first of which was last weekend, is designed to bring mentors and people, experts in their field, to open the doors for students to meet with other people. Thus, without all of these would not be here, without the hours spent by Mr. Takatela putting together all these small, tiny pieces. Thus, without much ado, let me invite and please welcome Mr. Thomas Takatela.
Thank you, Asha. Thank you, Stephen. I have the words ite inflammate omnia up here on the screen. The reason I have these words up here is because these are the words spoken or written by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. And he wrote these 3 words at the end of his letters to the young Jesuits who were going to distant corners of the world to go forth and educate people in all these different continents. The literal translation of those 3 words is set the world on fire, by which he meant he wanted the young Jesuits to go forth and enlighten the world. I had this vision for a lab that focused on science, technology, engineering, and math at St. Joseph's, with plans to expand it beyond and name it in the name of St. Ignatius of Loyola. We've had a tremendous amount of support from the St. Joseph's Boys High School administration, the Old Boys Association, which is our alumni association, the St. Joseph's Alumni Association of North America, and multiple other groups, which I will get into, primarily Joy Thomas Foundation. And the idea here for the LTC is to inspire the children at St. Joseph's and eventually other schools to go forth and make a difference in the world themselves. I'd like to spend a couple more minutes talking about Asha, who, as she mentioned, is the founding program director for the LTC and has been leading all the initiatives of the STEM labs. And as she mentioned, she is part of the Joy Thomas Foundation. Now, what's very important about Asha is that she has been working as a founder of one of the first STEM labs in India, where over 8 years, she has mentored thousands of students, of which over 200 students and 43 teams have gone out and competed in global competitions. 13 of those teams ended up being winners, and she also had 2 of her teams win the prestigious Intel Award. Now, this is so significant that we have Asha here at the LTC in St. Joseph's, because she brings such a wealth of knowledge from all of her experience to help our students as they are moving through their grades 5th, 6th, 7th, and beyond. Next slide, Stephen. A word about my dear friend, Joy Thomas. Joy and I were classmates throughout our time in St. Joseph's. And he is someone all of us would consider a STEM genius. Perhaps the most fascinating comment made by a professor at Stanford University simply said that Joy was the most brilliant gift from India to the United States in engineering in the last few decades. That is the magnitude of his contributions. He was first in our class at St. Joseph's. He was All India ranked #1 in the IIT entrance. He won the Charles Leggett Fortescue Scholarship and an IBM Fellowship on his way to getting his PhD at Stanford. In addition, Joy wrote a seminal book called The Elements of Information Theory, which is now the standard textbook in hundreds of universities around the world, used by tens of thousands of students. He was also a scientist working at Stanford, at IBM's famed Watson Labs, and at Google. But above all, the most fascinating and important thing about Joy, following his education at St. Joseph's, was he was an unbelievable humanitarian. He taught, mentored, and inspired thousands of colleagues, friends, fellow students, their friends, and their children over 45 years. And we have come together to create the Joy Thomas Foundation. And one of the programs within that, of course, is the Loyola Technology Center. Next slide, Stephen. One of the big advantages that through JTF will be available to the Loyola Technology Center is the JTF network. This is a group of thousands of highly accomplished individuals from major universities like MIT, Berkeley, Stanford, who have come together because of their affection for Joy and to honor his legacy. And so we have an amazing, unique opportunity within the Loyola Technology Center to bring together all of this knowledge to the students in our school. The next slide, Stephen. So why this focus on technology? So as you can see in this chart is tracking the impact of different technologies on the lives of people. So you will see in the late 19th century, 3 major technologies, which is the telephone, automobile, and electricity came along, and they changed the way the world worked, right? People could get around faster. You could use lights, you could use the telephone, and very importantly, it created a lot of jobs. And life became a lot easier, but importantly, created a lot of jobs. Next slide. Following those innovations, of course, you had the innovations of the computer and the internet. And if you look at that chart, you will see that the impact that they created was quite large. And we all know some of the great Indian companies that have been created as a result of the internet and computers, who are employing hundreds of thousands of people. But what is now happening is something that is orders of magnitude greater than computers and the internet. And that is energy storage, artificial intelligence, robotics, genome sequencing, and blockchain technologies. In addition, you have 3D printing, 5G technologies, autonomous and electric vehicles, fintech, solar, and space exploration. All of these technologies are evolving simultaneously, and it's creating a tsunami of disruptive innovation, and very importantly, some amazing career opportunities. So obviously, most of you are now making a lot of payments with your phones because paper cash will eventually disappear. Electric vehicles have become commonplace, and robots will eventually start building things, including eventually cities on Mars. So this is an explosion of technologies, and we're hoping to bring all of this information to inspire the students at the STEM lab. Next slide. So, as I said, STEM education offers students extraordinary career opportunities. And if the students don't have access to the resources, they will miss these opportunities. So the whole idea of St. Joseph's Boys High School, the BJES, and the Jesuits coming together with us was to really focus on bringing these opportunities forward to the children. Next slide. So Asha talked about all the different programs. And what the lab is going to do is essentially connect the math and science that you teach learning in class with actual hands-on projects that the children are working in the lab. So this, for example, is a picture of one of Asha's group of students that are actually making something in the lab that is working and is then taken to competitions and demonstrated. In addition, of course, we're going to have some guest speakers and workshops. We're going to have mentoring programs for students. We're going to have company visits, some competitions, and we're also going to, invite students from other schools to participate. So that's the whole vision for the program. And thank you so much for the questions, which now Stephen will bring up on the screen so Asha and I can try and answer the questions.
Thank you, sir, for the valuable insights. Thomas Tekatali has graciously consent us to take a few questions. So we have a few questions posed by the parents, teachers, and children. Yeah. The first question, I've taken commerce as my subject, but I really am keen to learn about space, science, and exploration. Will the lab help me?
Well, so thank you for the question. As you saw on that chart, the area of STEM is experiencing explosive growth. It's creating great companies. And in each of these companies, in addition to the engineers working on the products, there's also going to be a need for finance teams who essentially help these companies get properly funded, get properly operated, so that they can continue to generate profits and grow their businesses. So getting an understanding of STEM, even though you're a commerce student, will help you join the finance organization in these companies.
Thank you, sir. The second question, are there courses to pursue astronomy? And what is the future of the discipline in India and abroad?
Well, as I was mentioning earlier, and those of you who've been looking at the work that's going on in space exploration, I'm very fascinated by the company SpaceX, where Elon Musk has been breaking through so many barriers in terms of space exploration. And his vision is that we will eventually start colonizing nearby planets like Mars. So there will be some great opportunities to learn and understand. We're going to have a high-speed internet connection in our lab. We're going to have large screen monitors so that children can explore these ideas in the lab itself and pursue their interest in astronomy thereby. Okay, next question. Asha, you're going to take a couple of these, right? Stephen.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
So I'll just read the question. What does STEM mean to the education process and culture of the school for students and educators?
So STEM offers a wider ability to incorporate multidisciplinary projects into the school. What hands-on projects mean to children is that they get to explore and construct the knowledge of how it works. So for example, in our school, earlier in the last couple of weeks, students have been working with a ping pong ball. They had never experienced sound as an energy, but now today they can talk about sound as an energy, as a wave, as materials as absorption. So they are able to see and actually connect to what the ideas are that they are learning in their textbook.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question, what does a lesson or a unit look like when STEM is infused?
For an educator, when they start thinking and planning about a lesson, the central focus becomes not teaching when you incorporate STEM, but it becomes the learning of the student. So if we think about really why is a triangle 180 degrees, we can actually cut up a piece of paper. The teacher tries to engage the students to put different angles, different parts together, and the students not only learn that the sum of angles of a triangle is 180 degrees, they are able to derive what is the sum of interior angles of even a dodecagon just by extrapolating what they have learned. This means for a teacher and for a student that the achievements are much higher because knowledge is more concrete and it makes sense and lasts longer than simply memorization. It helps immensely in teaching and learning outcomes.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question says, what does a STEM classroom look like?
A STEM classroom is a nice combination of children working in groups, small groups or large groups or individually so that they can articulate their thinking. It also means mini lessons and it also means a clear focus on what we are learning. The difference is we begin to draw our connections across the curriculum and across other subjects within the curriculum.
Thank you, ma'am. And the next question was actually posed by one of our lab students. They were curious to know, how will we be assessed in STEM?
The assessment of STEM actually comes from their presentation, both independently and as a group. They will also be given tasks that they are asked to do together, which is something that they can come up with a list of tasks. So all of them, our assessment is threefold. One from the teacher, one from the student themselves, and one from their peer group about the participation. Students will be awarded participation certificates, but we are also planning on having recognition pins for students who ace not only in our clubs, but also across the Math Excel program, and specially recognize students who, of their own initiative, are going to walk to the lab and actually make use of every facility and every program that all of us here are collectively trying to bring to the school.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question states, what will be the difference between a graduate and a STEM graduate? Sir, ma'am?
Asha, is that for me or?
If you would like to answer that, that would be lovely. Either ways works.
Go ahead, Asha, because you've been, focused on a lot of the education of students. Go ahead with this, please.
Happy to do so. So when a graduate comes out, they are often bookish knowledge. So they have a lot of information, which today is easily available on the internet. When a STEM graduate comes out, they have spent years actually thinking about the problem, hearing about multiple solutions to approaching a problem, using multiple solutions and multiple approaches to solve a different category of problems. So when I say this, what it means is through the projects that the students do in our SEM lab, it's not just building a model and leaving it. It is about asking each other questions. It is about explaining. It is about that presentation. So over a period of time, our students forget their fear of failure. They are not worried about succeeding or failing. They learn to do their best, and they know when they stand at their best, they are head and shoulders above any other candidate who is then approaching a company for a job. Imagine out of two, you are that you are so desirous of.
Stephen, let's go on to the next question. Thank you.
So the next question is how efficient would a car with pedals and transmissions be compared to petrol or electricity? I think, Thomas, you should answer this question because you have.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I fully understand this specific question exactly as it's posed here. I would only say that I have an electric car. It's a Tesla. And what's really different between an electric car and a petrol car is, number one, the impact on the environment. Because, these petrol cars are clearly far more polluting the environment than the electric cars. And particularly if you're using solar in your home or factory to power the batteries, then it essentially becomes a car that's running with the energy of the sun. And so the impact on the environment is almost negligible. And that is the primary reason why companies are moving towards electric cars. Of course, there's a lot of other benefits because of the engine, the number of moving parts, et cetera, that need to be maintained is far less. And the car is incredibly more efficient overall. But I think the biggest reason for the push to electric vehicles is the environment. The planet is being damaged over time, as we all know, with global warming and everything else being the results of that. And the move to electric vehicles, not just cars, but trucks and trains, etc., is essentially very much where the future is. Next question, Stephen.
How does the Jabber's Web or the Hubble telescope work?
Well, I think we should, pass on this question because it's really not we're not going to be getting into the working of telescopes on this call. This is a call about the LTC and education at the LTC. So let's go to the next question.
But I think the student was wanted to know. Maybe he was curious about telescopes, and maybe he'll get an opportunity to go visit something like this to see the readings. Will we ever have an opportunity to go visit some labs, maybe ISRO or NASA, or talk to any research fellows from abroad?
Well, I mean, if there's sufficient interest, and we have our own, telescopes in different centers in India that people can visit. But I think the biggest impact that we could offer is by having these larger screen monitors. You could actually be going in and looking at the pictures and listening to the lectures being delivered from different centers where there's a lot of astronomical research and telescopes already placed. So you can actually be seeing the pictures, for example, from the James Webb Deep Space telescopes, et cetera, which has just now been coming out. And there's a lot of interesting new lectures and discoveries happening, all of which you'd be able to see on a big screen TV, a big screen monitors that we're going to have in the lab as well.
Thank you, Thomas. So how will the LTC benefit the students?
Stephen, I think we've covered this earlier, students. So it's all about what we've shared earlier in our presentation as well and our vision. So I would invite you to come and try for yourself or on after school and weekends to experience the benefits and difference yourself.
Yeah, I would just add to that. If I think that there's a lot of theory being taught in school and schools all over the world, but connecting this theory to actually having kids work hands-on with different projects and different tools really starts making the science a lot more understandable. So that's another big advantage of our experiences and what we're hoping to provide in the lab.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So one of the parents' consent is, will a grade 3 kid be encouraged?
Asha, you've taken these two questions about encouraged to be coming to the STEM lab or just encouraged? Of course, they'll be encouraged, but I guess I'm talking about the LTC.
Encouraged to the STEM lab. Will they be included, or will they have to wait for a higher grade to involve themselves in the STEM lab? I think that's what the parents want.
Yep. Yep.
So the answer to that is we are taking one small step at a time. And this year, the focus has been in middle school, specifically 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and including the IXL program for the 5th, 6th, and 7th. As we grow out the program slowly and steadily, we hope to become a K-12 STEM lab.
Thank you, ma'am. So there's this question. My son scores very high marks in math. And how will the IXL math help him?
So the IXL math allows children to explore areas that they would have otherwise not explored. In school, like Mr. Thomas shared, you follow a textbook, you follow a predictable pattern. But different students have different strengths in maths. So in the IXL, whether it's the online program or many of the problems that we will be solving in our math lab will help the student not only tackle their math entrance exams with far greater ease, it will also give them space to compete at a much higher level in all these examinations.
Thank you, ma'am. So, who are the top employers in India or abroad, and compensations for compensation for fresh graduates? How will the future career growth looks like in their arena?
Yeah, good. So I think all of us know and recognize that one of the engines of growth of employment in India has in fact been the IT sector. When you look at companies like Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, TCS, and so on, they're employing hundreds of thousands of IT professionals, and all of them are being paid extraordinarily well compared to 30, 40 years ago. And that is a direct result of two technologies that emerged, which is computers and the internet. Now, as I showed on that graph, the impact of the new disruptive innovation is an order of magnitude greater than computers and the internet. And it's all happening simultaneously. So the projections now are there will be another group of companies, including the ones that I just mentioned, that will expand employment to go after those opportunities. And it will create huge career growth in the STEM area. And that is one of the reasons that we are so focused on trying to get the kids exposed to this area, and those who become interested in it could really go on to great careers. Not only if you're an engineer, as I mentioned, you could be studying economics, you could be studying finance. All of those areas are going to be important to help the overall growth of companies in that sector.
Yes, sir. I think we finished this question, but still we have this question. What kind of activities can we expect in class?
We did finish the question, but just to share, it's a hands-on material, discussing and reading specific books and meeting with guest speakers who sometimes may be coming to the class.
Thank you, ma'am. So, what are some sustainable and manufacturable fuel-less for cars and or bikes? So, I think this
I'm
is an
not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also a technology application kind of question and not about STEM and education. You can look this up online clearly. Let's go to the next question.
What programs will be conducted by LTC? I think we already shared this, but I think, Thomas, you can give an insight or overview of what will be the outcome of these results.
Well, I think Asha has mentioned, first of all, we're talking about hands-on workshops. That is very, very important. People will be getting their hands on the technology. One of the nice things that Asha had talked about regarding IXL is, unlike other programs, IXL is something that all the kids who've signed up can be doing on their cell phones, and it gives them personalized feedback about areas they need to improve upon. And by guiding them through, whatever level of math they're at today will continue to rise. And that's going to be very, very important. So those are two programs. Then in addition, you're going to have the club hours, where people are going to be coming into the club during their club hours and working on some projects. We've talked about guest speakers that'll come in and speak. We will be having, and these will be phased in. It's not going to all happen over at the same time. We'll have mentoring programs for some of the students that need the additional help. We'll have visits to companies, in and around the area. So those are the different programs that are planned at the moment, and there's many more to come. And a lot of that will be available on the website.
Thank you, Thomas. So this is another question from a parent. If an 8-year-old can participate, what is the pattern and methodology? Is it a group? If yes, how many groups? And please throw up some light on the methodology and training.
So, as I shared, that the methodology will remain consistent across K-12. Most of the participation happens in groups, in a group of between 3 and 5 students in a group, no more. And some projects you might have even students working independently and individually. The idea is that students learn as much from each other as much as they do from the teacher. And as we grow into our program, the club will be open to multi-age groups at the same time, which means children learn from their older siblings and vice versa. So there's a lot of learning and discussion happening in the group. And that's really the methodology of the training.
Thank you, ma'am. And this is one from our 11th standard students. So he was quite worried. So do we need any credentials, or do we have to have a cutoff percentage to join the lab? You know how we join the colleges, so we need a cutoff percentage. So he was inquiring if you need percentage or marks to join the STEM lab.
I would say it's your curiosity, creativity, independence, intuitivity that draws you into the lab. And there is no grades that actually bring you to the lab. Thomas, I heard you laugh. Did you have something to share?
No, I was just going to say that exactly as you said, the lab is open to all the students. You have to be interested, curious, and willing to work hard. And I believe Asha and Stephen will really take you to a new level.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Asha. Before we go to the next question, we have a YouTube question coming. It's asked, will the biology aspect will it be covered in the STEM labs?
For sure. It's a multidisciplinary, and biology is definitely a huge part. It is STEM. So it's also climate change, environmental sciences, material sciences. We'll be going through everything, but through a more, I would say, multidisciplinary thematic approach.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question we have is, can we make a complete manual electric vehicle or no ECUs? So again, a technology-based question. So we'll be making we have such activities in lab that I'm sure. So Asha ma'am, I think you should go ahead and tell what we're planning on, what we'll be using.
So we are actually going to make a lot of small elements of this. So for example, for this year, we've actually planned what's called a batteries project. The idea is to actually use what we believe at home are dead batteries and dispose them carelessly into our waste. There's a lot there, but we will be building small circuits. We'll scale up from small circuits into larger circuits, and I have full faith in some of the students who are desirous of this. You come, we can all draw up things, draw up platforms, and see what moonshot activities we can actually work with and create. So once again, it's your curiosity, creativity, but what Mr. Tekatela mentioned, your hard work, because an electric vehicle, we don't work with blueprints. We actually evolve our ideas and learn every small aspect of it that needs to be put together in our labs.
Thank you, ma'am. So there's a question from Arun Kumar that says, has the STEM program started in school already? And can the 11th and 12th join in?
Yes, indeed. So the STEM program, as Mr. Stephen Nebu can share, has started. The 11th and 12th graders, you're welcome to come after school and on the weekends. Please come and discuss with us if you have specific projects that you have in mind, and we can incorporate them. Else you can continue to explore with the projects we are currently working on in school. The first theme was sound, and we explored sound. Now we will be exploring light through building some prisms and telescopes and periscopes, and really experimenting in that realm before we go into electronics, simple electronics with Arduino, and actually build our own table battery recharge project. Yeah. So you're more than welcome to come and walk in. We'll set up a schedule, and then you can work from there.
Thank you, ma'am. So moving on to the next question. Will study materials be provided? And if it is an individualized guidance for guiding students to each of their goals and to strive their purpose of an integrated course?
So think of it like a cookbook. The earlier instructions to get familiar with the materials, the safety aspects, and the learning will be provided to you. But what you make of that and what projects you want to create and grow, that is where guidance will be provided. Sometimes individualized, sometimes as a group. As we evolve, we will know this further. That's what I would say. We are waiting for you to make this your lab.
So the final question, what qualities do STEM students have upon graduation at the different levels in education? I think, Thomas, you should tell us about this because you have experienced quite some on hands-on experience when you were in school. And so what is your experience would you like to share it with the audience, please?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that one of the really important things that STEM has helped me and many of my colleagues who from school went into a STEM area is it taught us to think and think deeply. I think that's one of the signature things about the discipline of science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm not suggesting that other disciplines don't, but certainly in our case, that was very much what happened. So we had in St. Joseph's being taught math, physics, chemistry, and biology, obviously in classrooms like all of you are. And then we had some of our teachers, one who was outstanding, a Jesuit named Father Peter Pinto, who always opened up his lab, which was the physics lab, for many of us to come there during the lunch break, after school, on the weekends, and during the summer. And it is quite fascinating that a large number of students in our years ended up pursuing careers in STEM and went on to become very, very creative in the fields that they went into. So I think that what STEM brings is this idea of being curious, as Asha said, and essentially being able to think outside the box and kind of create your own ideas based on some very, very sound thinking. And I think that is what has been very unique at each level of our journey in school at St. Joseph's, and then beyond, the engineering and the workplace. And particularly now that you're looking at all these new technologies that are all evolving simultaneously, you're going to have a lot of creativity that comes forth by mixing and matching different technologies. And the boundaries between different areas of technology is also beginning to merge. And so I think there's going to be fascinating innovation that's coming ahead. And it's really all in the hands of the next generation, which are the students at school right now.
Thank you, Thomas. So we have one more question that's come in. Do we have to register to come in to the STEM labs? So I would definitely say no. You just have to walk in and just get in touch with the STEM lab teacher, and you can always walk in. So that was the final question. So moving on.
If I could add to that, while you don't have to register, I would strongly recommend that after the first time you come in, you actually have a plan of what we want to do. Some of it would involve us being able to have materials and lessons that we will be teaching. So that will be in a bit more organized manner over the next few months. So, but please, you're welcome to walk in and ask questions and let us know areas that you are interested in exploring.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. To display gratitude is generous and noble, but to live gratitude is to touch heaven. Ms. Diksha Peter will now propose the vote of thanks.
Knowledge and wisdom are both the signs of hunger and thirst of creativity. Unquote. Good morning to all. It indeed is a privilege to extend the vote of thanks at this virtual gathering that has bound us together by the unquenchable thirst of knowledge and the desire to explore science and technology. At the very onset, I would like to thank God Almighty for making it possible for us to conduct this webinar seamlessly. Today, as we log off from this digital platform, we are all a little more aware of the vision, mission, objective of the STEM program and the workshop of LTC. And the credit for this empowerment of knowledge goes to our keynote speaker, Mr. Thomas Teketula, founder, LTC, and Learn for Life Foundation. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your commendable talk and for satisfying our curiosity with your plausible answers. The welfare of our students and collaborators
has always been given the utmost priority by our school management. I'd like to extend a deep sense of appreciation to our dear principal, Reverend Father Sunil Fernandez, for his foresight in setting up LTC and for being instrumental in organizing this webinar to enrich and enable the students and parents to gain greater insight to the advanced science and technology. We are truly blessed with your vision and guidance in smoothing the path for the future. I'd like to express our sincere thanks to our primary school administrator, Reverend Father Vishal D'Souza, and our Vice Principal, Mr. Brian McTish, for being ever supportive and encouraging. Our heartfelt gratitude to Mrs. Asha Sundarajan, founder and director of LTC, for helping and supporting and in facilitating the LTC program at school. I sincerely thank the coordinators, teachers in charge, and the tech support team for ensuring the smooth operation of this webinar. Profound gratitude to all our dear students and parents for your presence and participation this morning. I take your leave with a quote. If your thirst for knowledge is strong enough, you'll find the waters to satisfy it. Thank you once again and have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. I once again thank you all for being a part of this webinar. Have a wonderful day.